Hey guys, today we're going to continue talking about the product property of exponents. So just as a reminder, what the product of powers property says is that when you are multiplying powers with the same base, we add the exponents. So you can see from the picture here, these two a's are being multiplied. So in order to simplify, you just add their exponents. Today is going to be a little bit different because we're going to have longer exponential expressions. So when you're multiplying these expressions that have coefficients with them, you'll multiply the coefficients like normal, but you'll simplify the variables using this product property. So let's look at our first example. Okay, so remember that those parentheses mean that they want us to multiply. So I have xy to the fourth power times x to the second power y to the third power. So we're only going to combine like variable with like variable. So in this case, that means that this x is going to get combined with this x, and then the y's will get combined as well. So let's start with those x's. Product property says that I need to add their exponents, only we have a problem. That first one doesn't have an exponent. Like normally it would be right here in this spot, but there's nothing there. So if it doesn't have an exponent, it's really an invisible 1. So when we combine those x's, it'll be 1 plus 2. Then for those y's, I have 4 plus 3. So now all we have to do is simplify everything. So this would give us x to the third power, y to the seventh power. Okay, let's look at our next problem. Okay, so now I have 3m to the negative 2 power p to the seventh power times m to the fifth power p to the second power. So with those variables, we're going to combine it with the variable that's the same in the other expression, only this time we do have a coefficient. So starting with that coefficient, we want to multiply it with the coefficient of the other expression. So coefficients are normally in front, but we don't have a number in front here. So anytime you have an empty space, it's normally going to be an invisible 1. So for those coefficients, we'll have 3 times 1. I'm going to put that in parentheses for now. Okay, now let's move on to the next letter. So our variable m. Because we're multiplying right now, we will add their exponent, so negative 2 plus 5. And then last variable is p, so p to the seventh times p to the second. We will combine by adding those exponents, so 7 plus 2. So now let's go through the entire thing and simplify. So starting with those coefficients, 3 times 1 is still 3. Then with m, negative 2 plus 5 gives me 3, so m to the third power. And then for p, 7 plus 2 is 9. So my final answer here is 3m to the third p to the ninth. Okay, let's look at our next problem. So we have q to the third power, r to the second power, s to the negative 1 power, times q to the second power, r to the sixth power, s to the fourth power. So we're going to combine like variables. So let's start with that q. So because we are multiplying, product property says that we're going to add those exponents. So I'll have q to the 3 plus 2 power. Now for the r's, I have r to the second times r to the sixth. Product property says that I need to add those exponents, so 2 plus 6. And then last I have s. So s to the negative 1 power times s to the fourth power. Let's add up those exponents, so negative 1 plus 4. Okay, so then now let's go through everything and perform that addition. So this would be q to the fifth power, r to the eighth, and s to the third. Okay, let's move on to our next problem. So I have 2g to the 7th h to the 3rd times 4g to the 2nd h to the negative 5th. So starting with the coefficients. Coefficients work with the normal rules of multiplication. So I'll have 2 times 4. I'm going to put that in parentheses. Okay, then our first variable is that g. So g to the 7th times g to the 2nd. Product property says that I need to add those exponents. So 7 plus 2. And then our second variable is h. So I have h to the 3rd times h to the negative 5th. So we are going to add those exponents. So 3 plus negative 5. So now let's go through the whole thing and simplify as we go. So 2 times 4 is 8. Then I have g to the 9th power, h to the negative 2 power. So remember yesterday we talked about negative exponents. Anytime you have a variable that has a negative exponent, you're going to move that to the denominator. So what this is going to turn into is, since the 8 and the g both have positive exponents, those get to stay where they're at. So 8g to the 9th. Okay, but that h to the negative 2, since that's a negative exponent, that's going to go to the bottom of our fraction. And now it becomes positive when it's at the bottom. So this would be our final answer when we simplify that expression from up above. Okay, so I have one last problem for you guys today. It's a word problem where we're going to apply these rules to finding volume. So it says a rectangular prism has a length of 2xy inches, x squared, a width of x squared y inches, and a height of 3x squared y squared inches. What is the volume in cubic inches of the rectangular prism? So a rectangular prism is just like a cardboard box, and you can tell from the picture here. And these three things that I highlighted are the dimensions of the box. So it's already labeled, the length, the width, and the height of this box. So in order to find the volume, we're going to multiply all three of these here. So I'm going to write this over to the side. We want to get 2xy times x squared y times 3x squared y squared. So following the rules from up above, we're going to start by multiplying the coefficients. So the 2 and the 3 are obvious coefficients because there are numbers out front. That expression in the middle doesn't have a coefficient, but we know that's an invisible 1. So as far as our coefficients are going to go, we'll have 2 times 1 times 3. Okay, then for our x's, I'm going to highlight them in each one. We want to add up their exponents. Because we are multiplying, product property says we add exponents. That first x doesn't have an exponent, but we know that there's an invisible 1 there. So we're going to have x to the 1 plus 2 power. Okay, and then our last variable is that y. So highlighting them all. The first two, so this one and this one, neither one of them has an exponent. But again, we know that means that there's an invisible 1 there. So for y, we'll have 1 plus 1 plus 2. So now let's just go through and simplify everything that we have. So 2 times 1 times 3, right here, that gives me 6. Then for x, we need to add up all those exponents. 1 plus 2, that gives me 5th power. And then for the y, it's the same thing. 1 plus 1 plus 2 gives me 4. So the volume of that rectangular prism is 6x to the 5th, y to the 4th. Okay, guys, that's all that I have for you today over the product property of exponents. Please let me know if you have any other questions over this topic.